Hey everybody, it's the R&B Show. Can you dig it? And now, here's the best tandem since Summerall and Madden. It's Ricardo and Brett.
Well, I feel honored to be even mentioned. Boom! With Summerall and Madden. And,
Are you Summerall and am I John Madden?
No, I think I'm John Madden. I think I'm a little bit more.
Well, then you got to say some booms. Let's hear it.
Boy, you know what I like what John Madden used to do that I always thought was really kind of funny, but some people, it really annoyed a lot of people, was, you know, at the time the telestrator was like the new thing. And like, you know, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, this guy here," and then it'd be just one person. He'd circle the guy. Like, we couldn't know that wasn't the guy. He had to circle the guy, but you know, he was just playing around because the telestrator at the time was very new.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, yeah, and here's Coach Landry, and he just circled Landry. You know, Landry's by himself. Like, you can't distinguish him with the hat and everything.
Did he do it like 5 times?
No, but he'd circle it though. It was just
when he circled, it'd be like circle.
No. I was just being very demonstrative. But yeah, that was always something I thought was really, really funny. And he would do it on occasion. He would still do it even later in his career, when you would think he would have kind of learned. But hey, we're already off on a tangent. We just started.
Late too.
R&B podcast. Yeah, sorry about that, Rosie. We're having some difficulties.
Yeah,
difficulties.
The machine decided to die right before we went live.
Right. So Rosie had to do his little MacGyver action over there. That's a very dated reference, by the way. Millennials aren't going to even know what that is. But but we're back. Episode number 18 of the only podcast dedicated to high school sports in the Fox Valley. I'm your co-host, Ricardo Arguello. Sitting alongside with me, as always, is Brett Christopherson. Just getting over some sort of sickness.
A little chest cold.
Okay, that's
so
why
my throat's a little.
All right, so I'll handle.
A little scratchy.
Are you saying I have to talk more? I love it.
Yeah, I know you do.
Job done. I'm on it. And we're both with USA Today Network Wisconsin. Also, don't forget about Rosie. Look, he's adjusting cameras and stuff on the fly still. He's our McLovin. He's Jim Rosendick. We call him Rosie. So we're ready to start our show. A couple of topics we're going to talk about that are kind of big. Cheesehead invite. We're going to kind of have a little bit of a wrap-up there. Talk about a couple of the Kakana kids that were doing well there in that one, and how we have a couple of them actually coming on the big show tonight, the round table. Then we're going to switch over to Hoops Talk. And that's going to be most of our talk, because most of our show, I should say, because there was a big upset yesterday that I was at, Brett.
I disagree.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Let's call it more of an upset, not so much a big upset. I mean, Division II, Division I.
It's not an upset.
All right, listen to this guy. Well, we'll talk more about that in a bit. Kakana over Oshkosh North. We'll talk about also Appleton North surviving a scare against Hortville yesterday as well. Both races heating up for both genders. AP rankings are out. I'm not happy with some of the placements, and I'm going to let people know why. Also, Brett, we'll have some discussion about some of the stuff that I talked about on 105.7 The Fan. I was a guest, just a guest call-in, I guess you could say, this past Saturday down to that show in Milwaukee. We'll talk about that. Also, Scott Vency, our brethren up there in the Green Bay Press-Gazette, had an interesting story. I really didn't read it too much. I kind of skimmed over it. Brett kind of read it in depth here about parents and the balance and trying to get their kids those kind of college scholarships and the amount of money that are spent.
How much they push.
Yeah, how much they push, too, as well. Yeah, good topic here, and I'm sure that's something that affects many of us here listening right now. If you're a parent, if you're a student athlete, I'm sure you've encountered this or are currently in this same situation. So first, let's start off the Cheesehead invite. If you guys don't mind, I'll kind of talk a little bit about this, Brett, because I know you love wrestling so much.
I do.
The Cheesehead invite, if you don't know, 32 teams from mostly around the Midwest, but they had some teams in recent years, come from as far away as Arizona, things like that. But Zach Lee won the 170-pound title. He wrestled up a class, too, to do it. I was talking with Chris McDaniel, the assistant coach, wrestling coach over there at Kakana yesterday, and he was telling me that they were happy with how the team performed. I thought they did well. Zach Lee, though, anytime you can win a title at the Cheesehead, in my opinion, that means more than just about any other wrestling title you're going to win either in a duel or any other these other kind of invites that you have around in the state. The other one that kind of compares is that Christmas Classic that's over there in Minnesota that they have over there. If you win a title there, that's big time stuff. But he made it there. Keaton Cleaver, by the way, both Zach Lee and Keaton are going to be on our roundtable tonight. But Cleaver made it to the championship of the 285, though he did lose by technical technical fall to one of the best wrestlers. I guess they call him pound for pound the best in the nation, Caleb Stevenson. This guy's going to be an Olympian. He's going to win a gold medal, folks. He's already wrestling Olympians, like in terms of training and things like that. So this kid, something special out of Apple Valley over there in Minnesota. But my goodness, the Chiefs has become the premier wrestling tournament, at least to start the new year, near the end, around the start of the year, every year. And, boy, again, Kaukauna was in that. You saw Wrightstown in there as well. I think Two Rivers. Stoughton, I think, was in there as well, and Hudson. So a lot of good teams, a lot of good wrestling. We had that covered, actually, by the way. Did you see that our own Jordan Jacobson was there covering that thing? So I know that thing's kind of a zoo, but he did a good job.
Don't forget, talking about Keaton Cleaver, future North Carolina Tar Heel.
Yes.
So he's pretty darn good himself.
Right.
It shows how good you're talking about with that other kid who won.
Right.
Future Olympian, as you're predicting.
Right, and there was another Apple Valley wrestler who won a title. I think it was at 132, and his name escapes me right now, but he's also going to North Carolina. So these top wrestlers, they all kind of know each other. Some of them are actually going to the same colleges together, and they kind of form those kind of friendships during these big tournaments and things like that.
Now, how many years in a row have Kaukauna and Stoughton met in the finals? Is it 3 years now?
It's
beat them 3 straight years in the championship?
It's at least 2 years. I think the year previous they might have met in like the semifinal.
Okay.
But yeah, Kaukauna, if you don't know this by now, 4-time defending state champions. They are basically the Kimberly of football, and I know they don't like being
Kimberly
compared.
of wrestling.
In the Kimberly of wrestling, yeah, they don't like being compared that way because obviously in any other region, in any other area, they are the top story because of those 4 state championships. But they have to kind of share that news cycle, I guess, or that kind of news interest with the team with the nation's longest win streak currently active in the nation for football. But yeah, I wanted to give a shout out to Kaukauna in that way because they are coming on the show tonight. We're going to speak more at length with them later tonight, so please check that out again, 7 o'clock for that roundtable with Cleaver and Lee.
Hey, by the way, did you know that the Classic 8 is a better football conference than the VFA? Oh, wait, no. Is that a different topic for a different day?
No. We're going to talk about that next. Next, I'm going to segue into that because I know, Brett, you and I had some good discussions about this. Actually, I talked to Mike Sherry about this too, our planning editor, very knowledgeable, obviously, in sports as well. And let's talk about that, and we'll get to the basketball in a little bit because I was a guest on The Fan. Mike McGovern, I hope I said your name right.
Down in Milwaukee area?
Down in Milwaukee, 105.7. He hosts a little radio show, and they talk every week about prep sports. And he had the Homestead coach, basketball coach, on as well. Now, we're supposed to talk about basketball, and we did. We talked about some of the top teams in our area and how that relates to them. I talked about Xavier, Kaukauna, Kimberly, all that kind of stuff, a little bit about Oshkosh North as well. But then for some reason it kind of delved into football because I think he very graciously talked about how, hey, the FVA is probably the premier league for basketball, while that Classic 8 is seen as the premier league for football. I was like, whoa. What was that? Classic 8 seen as a premier conference for football. Why? And I kind of mentioned, I'm like, well, the VFA actually has the five-time defending state champ, Kimberly, and they wouldn't hear about it, Brett. They wouldn't hear about it. I think they give credit to Kimberly. Don't get me wrong, but to them, all those teams that are in that are in the Classic 8, they were just rattling off, or they wanted to rattle off all the accomplishments. But I could sense there was a little bit of hostility there, I guess, if you can call it that, in the radio realm. And I was like, hey, I just think that I just said Kimberly's the best team. Their best games are against in-conference opponents.
And like we talked, Kimberly's first 7 opponents, all conference opponents, all made the playoffs.
Very true.
Who's all in the Classic 8?
Catholic Memorial and teams like that.
Was it Milwaukee Marquette, right?
Marquette.
And Kimberly beat Marquette.
Kimberly, not just that, Marquette had to struggle to beat Oshkosh West. No offense, Oshkosh West, but even you guys would say, come on. If Milwaukee Marquette's one of the best teams in the Classic 8. And
is Arrowhead in that?
I'm not exactly sure. I'm not
brushed
up on
Metro?
That might be in that might be in the Greater Metro. But
and during the
Waukesha West is in the Greater Metro, which is the Division II, has been the Division II championship game. And they brought up some many good points. This is something that's going to be brought up again because I think he invited me. He wanted me actually to come in studio. So I'm sure that's going to be an interesting show.
He wants to give you a nice forearm shirt.
Yeah, maybe he does. And all I know is this: is that you look. And my whole point comes down to Kimberly. If you look at their schedule, their most difficult games have always been against who, Brett? Appleton North,
Fond du Lac,
Spash, and not just Spash.
Nina was a tough
this
game.
year. Nina's a program on the rise Okay, so you're looking at 4 teams right there, boom, that, in my opinion, could go into the Classic 8 and compete for a title. So that's at least 5 teams, including Kimberly, that could compete and win for that Classic 8 title. And you're telling me that the Classic 8 is better than the VFA? So forget about it. There's no way.
Though.
They're a good conference. I'm not saying they're not a good conference, but they're not better. They're not better than
You know what I say about that comment that he made?
What's that?
That's cute.
That's cute, yes.
Cute
That's
comment.
cute.
What did he call you? How did he introduce you?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, I remember.
First off, he called me Richard.
Right.
And if you ever want to tick me off, you call me Richard, because that's not my name. My name's Ricardo. I only let very close, very super close friends call me that from way back in the day when I was at Amarillo High School. And also some of my family members, they call me Richie and that kind of stuff. It's just more family stuff, names when you're called when you're like 5 years old. But yeah,
you'll just have to get Daneth Cohn to
I do like calling
statistical
Dan
information.
Daniel Daneth Cohn, but yeah. So, and not just that. I think he couldn't pronounce our postgrad.
No, he had a hard time.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
I listened to
the
radio.
I was giving a hard time for Mike McGovern, but hey, I probably just butchered your name right there. So we'll talk more about this as a football season kind of nears, because I would love to come down there and talk about how great the VFA is. Of course, I'm biased, but as long as they come with it with their Classic 8 stuff, we'll see what kind of happens.
Wow.
Yes. Maybe get Mark Stewart.
I got me worked up a little bit.
Yeah. Maybe have you and Mark Stewart in the studio at the same time.
The premiere.
That would be
Classic
great.
8.
That'd be great.
Oh.
Brett, did you notice I got a little ticked off about the Kimberly thing? I mean, I was trying not to make it sound so much, but or about the VFA, I should say.
Yeah, it's always that Southeast Wisconsin slant.
Yes, there you go. That's what it is.
Big Milwaukee or even Southern Wisconsin, big Madison.
Yeah.
It's like, well, whatever. I don't think the Fox Valley has to take a back seat to anybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Especially when you look at the boys basketball scene, and we'll transition to that.
Right, exactly. And let's just start with the big game I was at yesterday. Now here's a couple teams, Rosie, Brett, that we're both very familiar with, Kaukauna, Oshkosh North. Kaukauna, I say it's a little bit of an upset because they're a Division II team beating the top-ranked team in Division I, okay? Brett doesn't say that's an upset. Why that's not at least maybe a mild
might
upset.
be Division II, but come on. They play a lot of big boys, especially these last number of years with Jordan McCabe. And McCabe's a recruit going to West Virginia, ranked 2nd in the country right now with Bob Huggins. And wouldn't be surprised if McCabe gets a lot of minutes as a true freshman for the Mountaineers next season. McCabe averaging 27 a game. But right now you look at 1A, 1B, and 1C in the FVA. It's Oshkosh North, Kimberly, and Kaukauna. They're all 7-1 in the league. Those are the clear-cut top teams in the league and in the state.
Yes.
Okay? Kaukauna could take on a number of those Division I teams in the state of Wisconsin and hold their own. I feel like Kaukauna right now is starting to pick up steam.
Yes.
And I think they're looking really dangerous. Now, they looked a little they had some hiccups in the game we streamed at Kimberly. I didn't think they looked real good chemistry-wise. In some of the games I've seen, I watched some of the WBY stuff on TV, and then the highlights following through on what I've read. They seem like they're really starting to gel now, and I think that's a very dangerous situation for other teams in Division II right now. I was not surprised to see Kaukauna beat Oshkosh North, and I think very highly of the Spartans. And I just think right now it's just a big heavyweight battle between 3 outstanding basketball teams atop that conference right now. And they got a big one Kaukauna does next Friday as they host Kimberly in the rematch. So I have no idea who's going to win that conference. Would not surprise me if Kaukauna does. And I just don't think it was that big of an upset. It was on their home floor. And by the way, if you have the chance, Doug Ritchie, our colleague at Fox 11 up in Green Bay, go to his Twitter account, @DougRitchie. The sickest basketball assist you will ever see.
Did you like that, BC?
Jordan McCabe.
Yeah.
From his knees in the paint. He was kind of dribbling it out, and kind of cuts towards the paint. Trips, gets kind of, must be 3 Spartans kind of surround him.
Yeah.
I didn't see who was underneath. I'd have to check again. But somehow McCabe sees him from his knees behind his back, a bounce pass under the basket. Layup.
Ivory.
Unbelievable, the court vision and the ability from your knees to take it and do a bounce pass behind the back was unbelievable. So go to his Twitter account. It was making its way through social media last night.
Yeah,
sure.
or mine, because I retweeted it. I'm at PC Ricardo. I retweeted it.
Go to PC Ricardo. I'm sorry. Forget about Doug Ritchie.
Yeah, forget about Doug. It's all about me. But no, Brett, now you saw that on film. Seeing it live, now where I was seated, I saw McCabe drive into the lane. Like, what's he doing? Because he was going right into the heart of that North defense. And then I see him hit the ground. I'm like, oh, that could be a turnover. It was a very close game at that point. I think it was 86, 83 or something at that point. Nope, you just saw him flick it right behind his back.
Pinpoint.
The crowd went bananas. It was one of the more incredible things I've ever seen from him. It might be the most incredible thing I've ever seen from him. And we've watched him since his freshman year, Brett. So we kind of have, we've seen a lot from him, right, Rosie? That's some of the most incredible things that he does. That was right up at the top of the list. And even afterwards, if you saw, I had the interview app. If you go to my story on postwrestling.com, I had video of this. He was nonchalant actually about it. He was just like, hey, you know what? I'm just looking for something. I saw someone flash, and he really downplayed it. And I thought, well, Monty, how talented are you when it's just
What did he have last night?
41 points.
41.
6 3-pointers. And a bevy of assists. He had to have 8 or 9 assists. I didn't keep track of those. But a classic clutch performance from McCabe. And those Oshkosh North student section, the Oshkosh North student section was just on him the entire game. He would bury some of those threes and just give it to them right back. It was a very entertaining game. At his best, he seems to be at his best, Brad. We've seen this when it's those kind of games.
Yeah, I agree, and he loves the lights. He loves to get put on a show, as he said last week on Varsity Roundtable. He's having a nice season. He's taken another step yet, and I'm excited to see him go to West Virginia, and we're going to see him on TV quite a bit because that's a premier program nationally. I want to say this: Mark Miller, our friend, the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook editor, the guru of state hoops, had a tweet recently. Jordan McCabe and the buzz that he generates and the fan interest that he generates is, he thinks, in the history of Wisconsin high school basketball, is maybe second only to Mickey Crow from the 70s. Mickey Crow, a legendary figure.
Even as much as Okie?
Hey, I believe it.
I wouldn't.
He's packing gyms because of the razzle-dazzle. Sam Okie was not a razzle-dazzle player. He was just a really good player who was going to Wisconsin and unfortunately fizzled out at the collegiate level. Anthony Pieper, kind of that same vein, but he was more of a shooter.
Yeah.
Mickey was a show because that JFK prep team could score high numbers. They were run and gun, and he would pop it from 35 feet away and not think anything of it. McCabe and much in that same, cutting from the same cloth, where he's putting on a show, and he knows he's putting on a show. And you saw it last night with 41 points and the assists and some of the highlights I saw, and some of the assists that he does. It's showtime when he's out there.
Now,
and fans
I think
want to see that.
I am a big fan of Jordan McCabe. He's one of our kids, so of course I'm biased toward him. But even I would say I would not rank him up there with Okie. And I'll tell you why. Because in this age of social media, where that stuff is a little bit more prevalent, all I know is I was a high schooler at Amro, right outside of Oshkosh. I heard everything about Okie. And this was before that time. You know what I'm talking about? All the
makes sense.
And same thing with Pieper, to a lesser extent Pieper as well. I was also in high school when Pieper was playing. McCabe, if I go to someone in up in Athens, are they going to know Jordan McCabe? They may know of him, but maybe not so much of his exploits. And this is in this age where social media is so prevalent. I don't know. Did you heard about Okie when you were in college, right? And for you too, Rosie. I mean, you heard.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's my point. Is that Okie, because he was such a physical presence, he was 6'7", 6'8" guy, and then when you saw him at the state tournament, literally man among boys.
Division 4 at the time.
It was. Was it even division, or was it classes still? I can't remember, I just remember him playing with a bunch of little kids and just dunking over. And we're like, whoa, that kid's incredible, But
I remember when the state tournament came around then, and it's like finally we're gonna, because it was televised. Finally I'm able to see what this kid can really do, because I've heard about it, but now I can finally see it. So I do remember that, but there was no social media. It was just newspaper or TV. So
we can argue the point, but the fact of the matter is, to even put McCabe there says a lot.
Well, and Mark Miller as a kid saw Mickey Crow play at Xavier.
Yes.
So he experienced it as a kid, seeing Mickey, and now he's seeing it again with McCabe. There's a buzz when Jordan plays.
Definitely.
And wherever he goes, they're packing gyms.
That is incredible. To witness this stuff, and I never got to see. I was obviously too young to see Mickey Crow. I was in another state too. But to have two players, I did see Okie play, at the state tournament. To see Pieper play at the state tournament, and then to see a kid like McCabe is incredible. That we're fortunate enough to see things like this.
Let's just put it this way: if Kakana's in the state semifinals, state finals at the Kohl Center is going to be packed.
I agree. No, there is
especially
absolutely
with this being his senior year.
Good point.
That might be a close to a sellout.
Good point. What if Tyler Harrow's there with somehow?
Then you got an enormous buzz.
Whoa.
I got to ask you guys one question. Okay, do you think he has had Jordan has had a better? Can you name someone now on this year's team or in years past that he has had a better repertoire with as a teammate, better than Alex Smith? Was it? It was Alex Smith, right?
No, it was
Adam Smith.
Adam Smith. Alex was the quarterback for the Chiefs.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like,
I
think I just messed that up.
Of the Chiefs.
But when it just seemed like that team, when him and Smith were on, it was crazy. I mean, it was almost like one of the great sports duos in history. I don't know. What do you guys think?
They definitely had a chemistry, and that led them to that title 2 years ago. And obviously, they missed a little bit when Smith was hurt. And it was early January.
I guess in recent years, though, you think Turner Botts and Kenny Lowe had a pretty nice chemistry with Little Shoot, and they went to state twice with those guys.
And then we're missing the obvious duo, Ferris and Plowman.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
This year, so yeah, it's. I don't know so much if Jordan has that kind of 1-2 thing with Carl. Though Carl had 7 3-pointers last.
He's really
last
stepped
night.
up as a shooter.
Yes, he has.
Wow. Nice job.
And then there's a big game also from Curry. Curry stepped up, had some big rebounds, had a big block of Halliburton.
Mike Shell's got some nice juniors coming up on that team too. Some young players. They're going to be tough to go against even when McCabe graduates.
We're talking about hoops, and let me, if I can, kind of steer this a little bit toward the rankings because the Associated Press rankings, of which I'm a voter, I don't know. I get a little upset sometimes because I push for my kids and the teams in our area. And, Oshkosh North, of course, they should be number one. I was real happy to see Kimberly up there as well. But then Pewaukee and Monona Grove over Kaukauna. I mean, and if you look at Kaukauna, Brett, you see the little first-place vote there.
That's you?
That's me. Voting Kaukauna number one in Division
Monona
2.
Grove's got a nice team.
Okay,
I've seen them, actually.
Okay, that's cute. But Kaukauna just beat the top team in Division 1.
True, absolutely.
So, in my opinion, I was justified with my first place vote for Kaukauna. So, hopefully, you guys will be moving up. In Pewaukee, I'm sure they have a nice team. I'm not familiar with them at all. But Kaukauna, in my opinion, Oshkosh North, Kaukauna, Xavier should have been the 3 number ones for those respective divisions. Xavier, of course, 10-0. Just whooping teams in Division 3.
I'd probably even bump Kimberly up to number 2, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and Brookfield East had a nice win yesterday as well. I think I forgot who they beat, but I was talking to J.R. Radcliffe about that, or read one of his stories. So Brookfield East, I mean, you got to have a Southeastern team in there, Brett, or else they start getting a little angry with us over there, a little testy. I mean, but they do have the D4 top team, Destiny.
Bayport's there at number 5. Don't sleep on the Pirates.
I'll sleep.
They got a nice club.
I'll sleep on the Pirates because Kimberly and Oshkosh North both beat them, didn't they? I think I know Kimberly.
Bayport's only got 1 loss.
Oh yeah, there you go. So Kimberly did beat them,
but
they did beat Spash.
I want to say something also that Mark Miller pointed out in Division 5. Granton got a vote.
Yes, that was.
Do you know what Granton's record is? They're 0-8.
And not just that. I think Miller may have pointed that out. That happens because when you do the voting, and I'm going to let everyone know this, and Mark Miller, I hope you're paying attention here. When you do the voting, they're from pull-down menus. And sometimes when you have the mouse, it'll flick a little bit as you do it, which will record the Granton vote. That's happened in football, too, where you've seen, Oshkosh North got, a vote or whatever, and they were 1-8 at the time. And so that's what it was. It's not someone actually voting for Granton. It's a mistake. With the system,
you can't go back and
you can if you go and edit yourself, but sometimes these guys don't do that, and that is where the problem is.
You got to double check. You got to be a journalist. You got to double check. What your work before you submit it. Come on, guys.
Do you guys want me to read a comment from Facebook?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. This is getting back to the Okie conversation. It says Rob Hernandez says Ricardo is spot on. Sam Okie was a circus. Pieper and Travis Tuttle's scoring reputation
Travis Tuttle
packed every gym in which they played.
Yeah.
However, Brian Butch put 5,000 fans in the UW Fieldhouse for a Badger Classic game against the, I think, Milwaukee King. He's not sure who their star was, but that was an impact performance.
Brian Butch was a very prevalent player, no doubt about it, and I actually did cover a couple of those games because at the time I was working with Fond du Lac. So, they had the Diener, so Travis Diener. So there was a nice, I guess, rivalry there. But even then, Butch, for as good as he was, I don't think had the same kind of charisma and flair as McCabe does, because boy, did team. I mean, did you cover Butch at all?
That was right before I got to the Post Crescent.
I don't know. There's McCabe, as we all know, is a very polarizing player.
He is.
There's a lot of folks who hate him, literally hate the guy.
And he's a super nice kid.
And he's a great kid.
Yeah, but he brings a swagger and a little bit of
swagger,
and cockiness on the court.
And he plays to it.
Yeah.
That is why I think he brings in the haters, and he brings in the guys who want to watch him play. So he kind of has that kind of dichotomy a little bit. You want to hate him, so I want to go and boo him. And then the people who are just fanboys
but if
and fangirls.
If fans hate you, that's a compliment, right?
That's what I meant. Right. I meant is that he does have that. I don't know if Butch had that, in my opinion. So
I was here to watch Butch, and that was he would pack gyms. I can remember going to Neenah High School, Ron Einerson Fieldhouse. You know how big that is. They were Neenah had some good teams back in that time too, and they had the bleachers packed underneath the baskets, along with the sideline ones that were where we set up for our stream.
Wow!
And then of course the other side behind the benches where Ron Einerson still sits. So
wow, they didn't even fill that much for state volleyball when it was there.
No, it was. I remember covering a game when I worked at a different newspaper, and it was a zoo. I'm just going with what Mark Miller said. Mark Miller, who's been again Mr. Knowledge when it comes to basketball, saw Mickey Crow play. Said that other than Mickey Crow, there's been no guy in state history that has generated that type of buzz than Jordan McCabe.
And I respectfully disagree. And I think Rob Hernandez, he's been around. He knows.
Yeah,
I just remember in high school, I remember everyone would talk about in the hallways about the Okie kid from Cassville. And I think a lot of it had to do because if you're from small town Wisconsin and you saw a big time player like Okie, because Cassville, you're right, they're in the smallest division, right? They're little Cassville. That's who you kind of saw. I don't want to say as a hero, but as someone to admire because they came from Little Cassville and they're generating all these headlines. You know what I mean? A Badger recruit. Where McCabe's playing Division II, and it's kind of he plays in the Division I conference. I'm not sure if that kind of reach is like that, but maybe I'm looking too much into that.
This is what he said. Other than Mickey Crow back in the day, you very well might be the biggest fan draw in the history of prep hoops Wisconsin due to your incredible skills.
Okay, so he's responding actually to Jordan, or he's sending Jordan a kind of a shout out in that way. Well, let's take a look real quick at the girls before we kind of wrap up the show here. Here's another thing where I'm a little upset because Appleton North is not ranked number 1 in D1 girls. The defending state champs.
Is that Milwaukee King?
Milwaukee Kings ranked number 1. No problems with Milwaukee King. They're a great team. North beat them pretty handedly in that state semifinal last year, Brett, if you remember. Really took them out of the game. And Appleton North returns 4 of the 5 starters from that team. Their only 2 losses, Brett, have been to defending Florida State champs at that national invite. Okay, they're not even 2 Wisconsin teams in my opinion, or in terms of to be technically correct, they're not Wisconsin teams they lost to. One of them was to Boca Raton, which is one of the biggest schools in Florida, almost 4,000 enrollment, and they lost to them by 2 points. In that national tournament. Come on, man. If you're a defending state champion, you return 4 of your 5 returning starters. How are you not ranked number 1?
You know what? Here's the thing. Rankings don't matter right now, number 1. And number 2, on Saturday, January 27th at Milwaukee King High School, they'll have a chance to settle it in a big non-conference game. Yeah. Appleton North's going down to play King. And right then and there, you can find out who the number 1 team is.
Yeah, but I want to talk about it now.
No, it doesn't matter right now.
I want to talk about it now. But I will say this: Appleton North,
big win last night against Hortonville.
They beat Hortonville, a state-ranked team in Division II, and they were actually behind Hortonville
at half. Yeah,
at the half. So
we should live stream that game. We really should.
Well, they were down 36-32 at the half. Lightning beat the Polar Bears 67-62, and I know Sydney Levy 29.
Yeah,
the UW Milwaukee recruit.
That's my girl, Sydney Levy, going to UW Milwaukee. There you go, my alma mater. So, yeah, she had a big game. Hey, Division II, we talked about Hortonville. Hey, Seymour's up there in the top 10, too. Seymour's ranked number 4, Hortonville number 5. Hey, Green Bay Notre Dame is number 5. I should say Hortonville is number 6.
How about the stretch Hortonville's on right now? They've lost to Notre Dame,
yes.
Kimberly, and now Appleton North back-to-back, and they have Seymour coming up very shortly in a non-conference game between 2 of the top teams in Division II.
So, in my opinion, this is where you see the voting come into play. I'm not going to technically lower Seymour or Hortonville, I'm sorry, out of the top 10 because of the 3 teams that they played are all ranked teams. One of them is a Division I defending state champ. So, again, that's where we see that kind of come into play. Someone will vote them. A lot of folks will probably vote them out of the top 10, but that'll just irk me even more. Division III, Brett, you see Wrightstown with how many first-place votes?
I don't have it up right now.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
Have the girls' side
well,
yet.
Let me answer that question for you. There's two. One of them is from me, Wrightstown, and I voted Wrightstown number 1. Laconia is ranked number 1. I think Wrightstown should be number 1. And I think that might be the only area team in the top 10 for us in D3. Division 4, Shiocton's number 7. They also made the state semifinals last year. No problems with Aquinas being number 1, though. That team was by far the best team last year. And then looking Division 5, I don't think we have any area teams other than Lords, I guess you could say, from Oshkosh. Blackhawk ranked number 1 there. But, Brett, I take those rankings very seriously. I pour through them. I'll look at each one, and then I'll look up the records.
That's what you're supposed to do.
That's what you're supposed to do.
Right?
Because for a while there, I was actually putting how I voted on, within the print edition anyway, and stuff like that. So I might have to get back to doing that so people can look at my votes and then holler at me, which is fine because I like discussing rankings. I love talking about that stuff because I like representing our kids.
You love you.
I do love me some me, as you well know.
You love you.
Now, we didn't miss anything here, but I do want to talk about real quick the Vency story.
Yeah.
Parents, balance. And pushing your kids too far. Brett, I want to get your thoughts on this, and you too, Rosie, because you're both parents with young kids. For Brett,
I got old kids.
Yeah. No. I meant they're in the varsity level now,
well,
where yours is in the youth level.
Out.
Yep. So give me some thoughts here, Brett. Real quick, we'll go to Rosie then.
Well, I think it's an interesting story. It's titled Some Parents of High School Athletes Walk a Tightrope When Advocating for Their Kids. In other words, how hard do you push these kids? Very interesting stuff. But when we talked about this before, I have a son who's 22. And another one he played varsity sports, and another one right now is playing varsity sports. He's a junior in high school. And I kind of made the decision that I didn't want to be a dad that pushed hard, for the very reason that I didn't want my kids to hate me. I wanted them to make their own choices, their own decisions. That doesn't mean you don't give them a little nudge or some advice. Talk to them from time to time, but I was not going to be one of those guys that went over the top, in their face. You got to do this. You got to do that. My oldest son, and we talk about this still, and I think they're well-rounded. He University of Minnesota graduate. He wants to be a high school teacher, and my youngest son, has a bright future as well. So very well-rounded, very smart academically. We always pushed academics and still do first. That is number 1. You got to get good grades because you will not be a professional athlete, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry, parents, but most of your kids just aren't going to play at the pro level, let alone the college level. So you got to get good grades, and they did. But I just didn't want to be the guy. But Ryan, my oldest, very good football player, come up, played through his freshman year, very good running back, and then decided he wanted to switch and play soccer. As a father at the time, I was thinking, you are really good at football, but I stayed out of it because it was his choice, and he really had a passion and a love for the game of soccer. Came back to football his senior year and had a really nice season. They went to the playoffs, but I'm guessing some dads probably wouldn't have been as understanding as me and would have pulled the kid by the side and say, "You're dumb. What are you doing here? You're making a big mistake." You got to let the kids make their decisions. They're growing up. They're becoming adults, right? And Ryan made what was a good decision. Made lifelong friends from the soccer side of things, and had a great experience.
And went out for football senior year.
Yeah, well, he played through his freshman year. The middle school freshman, 2 years of soccer. Went back. He just decided he wanted to go back to football. I applaud him for that because he made his own decisions, and they were right for him, and they were right for him. So I was never going to be the kind of dad that just got in their faces and. It's just interesting, though, because I know some parents just can't help themselves.
No. And they're kind of in living vicariously through it. And as sports journalists, we see that on a daily basis, which is why I've kind of pulled back on my son. But let's talk to you about Rosie. About Sam.
It's
First off, how old is Sam?
Sam's 10.
Okay.
So he's been in Pop Warner, Little League Baseball, and basketball right now.
Okay.
But and he's not sure he wants to play football again next year, this coming season. And I said, it's completely fine. This is all up on you. I said, there are other sports out there. There's tennis, there's golf, there's track, there's all kinds of stuff you can do. I like him to be out for sports just because it keeps him busy, keeps him off the Xbox, other things. But like Brett, school studies are first and foremost the most important thing, but I think seeing how parents are so involved now, it's like if your kid even has a hint of talent, they go overboard with it. I mean, Brett's listened to some of my stories, and he can't believe how things probably have changed
at that
since
level. Yeah.
his boys were that age. And I mean, for football, if with your son, if he wants to come back and play, great. If I don't want to play it right now, okay, come back, maybe 7th, 8th grade, high school, whatever. If you don't ever want to play it again, that's fine too. But I know he loves baseball, and he's starting to really like basketball. Not very good at it, but he sees some of the other kids, and he goes, well, yeah, but they can dribble, and they can do this and that. And I said, yeah, Sam, how old are you again? I'm 10. Yeah, right there. You're 10. You're in 5th grade, dude. You've got a lot of time, and I'm not huge on like the whole AA thing. I'm like, you can do your skills, you can hone them sitting in your driveway, dribbling, shooting, doing little things like that. I don't know. I don't know if you can get them at a camp, but do you really? I mean, you got to put the practice in outside of these places. But as far as like pushing him as to what he wants to do, if he doesn't want to play football, I'm fine with that. I'm not gonna. You got to play. He's where Sam is not always as gifted as some other kids are athletically, or not as good as a certain sport. He's smart though. He figures stuff out. So he figures out the game that way, or I guess maybe ways that he isn't efficient in it physically. He'll make up for it by being football smart, or basketball smart, or baseball smart. So
future coach,
you got to teach these kids to make their own decisions, right? And what's best for them.
Yep.
So they grow up.
Yeah.
I want to say two things. I know we're running long. I don't care right now.
Yeah.
AAU. When I was younger, or in getting a young father in AAU, I always looked at AAU as that circuit where if you had some serious skills, that's where you play, because then you have a chance to go and play at the next level.
Yeah.
I do not understand how families can shell out the kind of money that they do, and it's never recouped because they either don't get the scholarship, or they play at the Division III level where you're paying your tuition.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they just stop because they're burned out after high school because there's so much expected of these kids nowadays.
Yeah.
A lot of these kids, once high school's done, they're ready to be done with sports because that's all they're doing, even in the summertime.
We see that on the roundtable. Several instances I've asked players, that's one of the questions I always ask the seniors at least. What are you doing afterwards? I'm not playing sports.
These
are really good athletes.
Yeah.
They're tired.
One I can think of right off the top of my head, who won our Female Athlete of the Year, Peyton Uffy from the great Xavier, who led her team, to
she went to Marquette.
Right, exactly. Well, I know that, but that was the thing. She didn't want to play past high school, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She felt she was done.
Oh, yeah.
3-sport athlete. Let me go and become a college student and deal with that, and not so much the athletic part of it.
And some kids just want to go to Madison.
Yeah.
And you got to be a special athlete to be at the Big Ten level.
Yeah.
Ryan wanted to go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
He wanted to go to a big school and in a Big Ten university. Yeah. That's great. But you shell out all this money and you don't get it back in having your kids' education paid for. I don't understand it.
Or where you could have had it where if you just put the money in a fund
that
you spent, easily could have paid for them.
Now some of them fine. They're just trying to get their kids better. But there are folks out there that are saying, I'm shelling out this money expecting that you're going to get a scholarship, and they put all this pressure on these kids.
Or they sit the bench.
Number two, real quick. Parents. There are parents out there, and I'm probably going to get in trouble. Don't live through your kid, all right? When your kid has a great game, I don't need to see you strutting around like you had the great game. And you've seen it too.
Well,
these parents kind of like, that was my kid. You can be proud, you can cheer like crazy.
Okay.
But I see a lot of parents, they kind of strut around the gym or the field like, you didn't do anything out there. That was your kid.
Yeah, but he paid the money.
Celebrate your kid and what he or she just did. All right? It's their life, it's their experience. You share in it and you encourage it.
You're always going to have
I have my faults too. I'm sure I've messed up.
You're going to have those extremes. I'll close it with this. With for me and my son. My son's 9, he's a year younger than Sam over there, and Brett, he is telling me I want to be a pro football player, and I say that is wonderful. But let's make sure that you're still doing your things, because unfortunately I didn't want to tell him this, but unfortunately you have my genetics, and the odds are slim to none actually that you're going to become, unless you're going to try to be a kicker or something. I don't know, because I don't think he's going to be 6'3" or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that he wants to play it. Part of me is happy to see him when he's not in tackle football, but he wants to be in tackle football. Issue I have with his mother. He was playing flag football. He was the most penalized player because he was pushing kids down to the ground. That tells to me, he wants to hit people. He tells me he wants to play tackle. If his there's always two sides. You got to have the wife or the ex-wife, in my instance, but she has to okay it. Then yes, he'll go into it. But because of my experience in dealing every day with parents and their kids, am I going to be one of those? I keep thinking to myself, please don't let me become one of those parents who is just yelling at the coaches, yelling at the officials. So part of me wants to see this happen, but part of me is a little worried about how I'm going to react. That's on me, though. But, for all we say about it, we have all had those instances, Brett. Even you, come on, even you when in terms of...
I've gotten on officials from time to time, but I have never crossed the line and made it personal. I've said, you missed the call, that was a travel. It's, basic stuff like that, that sort of thing.
But the fact that your son wants to play tackle football is a good thing, because being a coach, I've seen a lot of kids in there that are there because mom and dad wanted them to play football.
Okay.
And that's the one thing I coach with the kids, or try to get through to them. Don't play scared, because that is the first time it's the easiest time you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And if you have a kid that's like, well, I'm here because mom and dad wanted me to play, okay, try and get in there, and tackle the guy.
You're already a step behind is basically what you're saying. If you come in.
And having kids that really want to play, it shows. You can tell the kids that don't want to be there or are there because mom and dad said you should, or they wanted to get into a sport. And then the kids that just flat out, I want to play football.
And are those the dads for the kids who don't want to be there, the ones that yelling the most, probably?
That, or else, they're the ones right after practice that are whoosh right over to their kid. Hey, so how's it going? How do you do? And it's like it's fine, it's good, but some of them come around and they start playing, but there's others that are just they're tentative. And
why don't you just be honest? It was terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
It's not terrible, but it's just well.
This is a topic that we could broach again.
It's a good topic.
A good topic. I mean, because I'm sure we're going to have some examples later on in the year, something that we've seen, and we'll talk about it a lot. But we're running past
real
time
quick
here.
Facebook comment from Lisa about girls basketball. Don't overlook St. Mary Catholic. Division 4, tied for first in the Big East right now.
Yeah, my guy Jeff Chu is back there coaching, in my opinion. And St. Mary Central at the time let him go, and I did a column. I think it just kind of, I don't want to say blasting them. I said that was a big mistake if you guys let him go. So it's great to see him come back.
You mean Hortonville? Or?
No. Well, Hortonville too. Well, St. Mary Central at first let him go.
Okay.
Remember, a couple years after he won the state championship. And then he was off for a year, I think, and then he went to Hortonville. Hortonville, I also believe you should have probably kept him for a couple more years, but that's just my personal thing, because I know Coach Chu, and he kind of built that Hortonville program up to what it is now. And then he goes back to St. Mary Catholic now, and he's doing a great job. We knew that would happen, right, Brett? He's a winner wherever he goes, even on the baseball field with the Legion team.
Yep.
Was he not coaching last year? He didn't coach at all last year. I could not believe nobody approached him.
Well, it's the way it is. Sometimes those are kind of awkward situations, and when you have someone let go right away, and then I don't know if there was really an opening. The only one I can think of was it the Xavier one that was open, because
Little Shoot had an opening too.
And Little Shoot had an opening too, but sometimes it's good to take a step back, and then reassess where you are. But no, we'll keep track of St. Mary Catholic, of course, as always. But we're wrapping it up now, Rosie. We kind of went over a little bit.
We don't even need to talk streams because we don't have any game streams scheduled this week. We can talk about it next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't forget, later tonight, Varsity Roundtable with Keaton Cleaver, Zach Lee. Thank you so much again for tuning in to another episode of the R&B Show podcast. Again, check us out also if you want to download this, Rosie, on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, so you can listen to us on the audio part of it. All right, Brett, go ahead. Get your throwing going.
He kept his focus, though, after all those conversations.
All right. Have a great week, everyone.